I'm sitting here today with Girish Nihete, the head of the Transactional Banking Group for Financial Services Industry at SAP in Asia Pacific, and Anselm D'Souza, the Managing Director of Calte Nooters. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Peter.
Thanks for joining me today. We want to talk a little bit about the trend of banks going back to basics, becoming simpler institutions, but being very focused on the customer. From your point of view, in terms of technology, what is really happening at the banks and what are they going through in this process?
The term customer centricity has been around for many years, and this going back to basics is something that the bank has been striving for, and moving into how they can serve the customer really better. For instance, you can look at customer centricity from right at the front, and you see how you would want to build your CRM model. You can go right to the back and look at how you want to analyze the data of the customer in the business intelligence world, or you want to improve the service levels of the bank to serve the customer, or the spread of products or the width of products that you want to offer the bank. So what do you consider customer centricity, and how do you want to actually put this across? Today the banks have disparate systems that are across there. They tend to look at customer centricity, and then into projects they focus on certain areas that they want to fix along the way. In the Asian bankers in April, many of them spoke about defining what they would imagine would be a business architecture that they can begin with, and focus an end-to-end solution, an end-to-end view of this relationship with their customers, and then start to build processes behind it, and then use technology as an enabler to go forward and build the systems that they want to do, and start this transformation of the legacy system that they have. Key to this is to then understand what is this business architecture and how can they build this business architecture, having in mind what is industry best practices.
Ultimately, I agree with Anselm in terms of the fact that the customer centricity has been, of course, of importance in the past too, but technology, the way it has changed in the last few years. Core banking has a customer CIF, yes, we understand that. But in a bank, along with the core solution, there are several other line of business solutions that have been, of course, implemented as package or developed in-house, which have their own customer data. So it's been that essentially all these various systems distributed have their own centralized customer. And the challenge that banks have is to get that one view. At the topmost level, if you look at from a CRM perspective, yes, you would like to have a relationship view of the customer. What is it that the customer products, what are the portfolios of the product the customer actually transact with you, and how profitable the customer is. However, the underlying processes that go through in gathering that data has been a big challenge. And how the technology is helping here is to how to make it intuitively centralized by extracting the various customer information across these various systems and bringing it onto one layer. Now, it's not as simple as simply extracting customer data and setting up one database, which is something that banks have attempted in the past. And therefore, the very new trend and the strong emerging motivation for banks to go in for a, say, customer data integration hub. A CDI hub, as it's known, is becoming very important, and banks are really actively looking at embarking on a CDI kind of approach, which is like a master data management for customers. And solutions that we have, like for example the SAP customer information management, along with the Calte router Thaler solution, we're able to actually bring in a data quality engine along with our CIF.
So this is about deepening the relationship with the clients and increasing, of course, revenue. Customers, of course, are an important stakeholder, but another important stakeholder is still the investor, and they're starting to ask hard questions about costs. Costs need to come down. How is the technology enabling the cost to come down in a real way?
You first must identify where are the cost drivers. And today, we go back to banks that have legacy systems over a number of years. they're dealing with multiple systems, disparate systems, systems built in-house, systems built by vendors, customizations and localizations, and all of those that now form part of this legacy system that maintains the bank. One way to look at it is the number of teams that have to learn the type of technologies that were developed on these products. And so you have multiple teams maintaining multiple systems right across the whole bank. And if you could look at it from a homogeneous kind of technology, and I'm not talking about taking one system and for the whole bank. I'm talking about having an architecture that has been laid out, and Girish spoke about it, and we spoke about it, and today this technology is available, the service-oriented architecture. You can have best of breed as long as the services are being able to be consumed by the channels or by the customers or by the stakeholders. Then this technology becomes really viable, it becomes agile, it becomes flexible to then rapidly enable the bank to then serve its customers and reducing its costs as well.
To add to this, what I mentioned, legacy cost, which is the legacy core banking cost, is of course the biggest cost today for a bank, undoubtedly. And a transformation exercise is definitely that banks are embarking on. It's not just a business process transformation that needs to be done, but as well as how the technology supports that business process transformation. So it's very important to be able to choose a technology that the banks can adopt for the next 20 years. So therefore, the cost of tomorrow is also dependent on how and what you implement today. But in addition to that, the legacy cost definitely is a direct IT cost. However, there are a couple of other areas which I think banks have been trying to identify in terms of the indirect costs. The indirect costs are not just IT, but as well as operational costs. In order to identify the cost items in the line in the P&L, bank needs to be able to tie it back to what is it the cost really contributing to. Another aspect of cost is something which is many a times hidden cost. I'd like to give an example, is the physical cash supply in banks. The physical liquid cash today at ATMs and branches are something that banks have been dealing with for many years. Some of the banks have been actually managing the logistics of supplying cash. And a lot of banks in Asia, for example, outsource it to vendors. But the cost still remains. And the cost of supplying cash is one, the logistics. Second part is the amount of cash that keeps stocked up in the ATM, even if they're needed or not needed. The vendors who are actually the ones supplying the cash for the bank, the KPIs are different. The KPI is to make sure in-time delivery of cash to the ATM. But the cost for the bank is first of all also to see whether, am I happy with the liquid cash lying in ATM, which was never utilized on average. So a supply chain optimization is important here, whether it's in-source management of the cash logistics or outsource management. So therefore we have seen a lot of banks in Asia approaching us to see how we can, as SAP, help from the supply chain perspective. Secondly, from the business intelligence perspective, to be able to analyze that cost of supplying those cash. So these are the areas where technology really is helping now banks to no longer accept a cost the way it was, but to break it down and actually rationalize the need for that cost.
I just want to add, which you brought up the point about having different business models. And today, the traditional model is about purchasing and holding the assets on IT. And more cloud computing service, software as a service is the buzzwords that are in the market. How do you actually tap on those ideas to actually reduce some of your costs? How can you pay through utility rather than paying upfront costs in putting out systems and then spreading this cost across the number of years? Those are some of the ideas that could be looked at when you're looking from a cost perspective in terms of having systems out there. And we see a trend that people actually wanting to then outsource some of the IT solutions, the IT systems to people that actually run it across as a business, and they're very, very good at it and very strong at it, and so that the banks can really focus on their business, which is banking.
Great. Okay, thanks Anselm. Thanks Girish.
Okay.
Very good.